Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
820, Big 550, KTRS. Bowen Dental Care sponsors Dr. Jeffrey Lowell, who is professor of surgery and pediatrics at Washington University. He joins us via Skype. Good morning, Dr. Jeffrey Lowell.
Good morning, McGraw and Kelly.
So yesterday, the story breaks that these NHL players, and there was some type of mumps outbreak. We were talking about it. We had no idea what the mumps really was, and Kelly Jackson actually had the mumps, and she couldn't actually tell us what it was. What is the mumps?
How come Kelly couldn't tell you what the mumps was?
Because I had them in college, and, it was a few years ago. I said I had swollen glands. That's the thing I remember the most.
Well, you're right. I mean, mumps is a virus, causes pain, headache, tiredness, just like flu does. But the thing that's unique about mumps is it gives you swelling of your salivary glands that makes you look kind of swollen and lumpy. Did you look swollen and lumpy?
Yeah, I did. I looked a little lumpy.
It sounds like it's a form or very similar to mono.
Yeah, it's a virus that causes. There's lots of things like flu or mono or another one's called CMV, cytomegalovirus. These things all lead to kind of similar type symptoms. But usually you get immunized against these. And what kind of the unusual thing about mumps is that it likely these 9 hockey players were immunized, and but they still got it. So that over the last few years, we've recognized that you probably need a booster when you're an adult, because everyone should have had this immunization when they were a kid. So usually get a booster sometime when you're a grown-up.
Oh, interesting. So mumps there's a vaccine for it. It's not deadly. It's just sort of annoying.
It's annoying for sure.
Okay,
and you can definitely spread it pretty easily. So these it can spread by cough or sneezes or sharing cups or water bottles. Probably is how many of these NHL hockey players have got it.
So are doctors telling people to go get a booster shot, or is that something that might be coming down in the future or something?
No, it is recommended that adults aged if you're under 55, you should get a booster shot.
Oh, that's good to know. Mm-hmm. All right, good. Now, speaking of boosters and things changing, what's this CDC warning about the flu virus?
Yeah, well, they usually, the CDC, when they have to make up the what's going to be in the flu shot every year, they have to do it 9-12 months in advance because of issues of flu virus production. Flu vaccine production, and they usually guess it pretty well. Sometimes they don't guess it so well, or more likely the flu virus mutates some, and so that's what's happened this year. The typical flu vaccine protects against 3 or 4 of the strains that are going around, and this year one of the strains has mutated, so that only about half the cases of flu that are actually out there are being covered by the vaccine. And that being said, that doesn't mean you shouldn't get a vaccine if you haven't gotten one already, because you definitely should, because there's a crossover and there can be some temporizing effects of the flu vaccine, even if it isn't a perfect match for the strain you may have just been exposed to.
Sure. All right. And then in terms of vaccines, you pass us on another story about how daycares are demanding that parents get their kids vaccinated.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how people are kind of against vaccination, but that really is the minority, because when this has been studied, and it recently was, 81% of parents say that children in daycare should be required to be updated on vaccines, and about half of those say that if they're not, the daycare should get them immunized, and 70% said that if their daycare facility doesn't require it, that they're going to pull their kids out. So that, we talk a lot about people who are kind of anti-vaccine, but this is the vast, vast, vast minority of parents. Right,
but those numbers are still 20% and 30%, which is still a pretty large number of parents who, don't care or, are sympathetic to those who do not vaccinate their kids. Yeah.
Yep, too high.
Yeah. And then lastly, while we still have you, Doctor, what's this story with India? Sounds like an interesting story with India going on. What's that story there?
Yes. So this has to do with how do you keep track of whether your kids have been vaccinated? And we do a really crummy job in the United States with doing this because for the most part it's done on a piece of paper and a card. And in India, that was done the same way. So a bunch of entrepreneurial students from Yale were tasked with a project which was entitled, Fix This. So they developed this little necklace that goes around a kid's neck that has their immunization status right on it and planted into a chip that they wear around their neck. And there's a smartphone app that can ping the device that's worn around these kids and say, what vaccine have these kids received and when. It's a very ingenious, low-cost solution to keeping track of your medical record.
I mean, it's almost comical that the doctors have our medical records on paper in an office somewhere, and we can't access them. At some point, very soon, there's just going to be an app that's going to follow you around for the rest of your life, and that's going to be your medical file, and you can access it from the cloud and give it to the doctors so they can update your medical records.
You can in some cases, can't you, Dr. Lowell? Some doctors allow you.
Some do, but not enough. I mean, we are about 15, 20 years behind where libraries are in terms of IT technology.
That is a scathing report. 15 years behind libraries. Libraries are still on the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh, no, they're way past that.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Fair enough. Dr. Jeffrey Lowell, lastly, while we have you, you spent quite a number of time in East Africa. What are your thoughts on the news today that the Today Show has given the Ebola fighters the Time Person of the Year?
It's I didn't hear that, but that's, I think it's exciting news. I mean, this is probably one of the first no kidding epidemics, at least in my lifetime. There's been a lot of scares, but this has been really the first no kidding one. And people who kind of raced to those scenes to try and help stop it, I think, are honest to God heroes.
Yeah, but what's interesting is when they came back, nobody wanted to touch them.
Yeah,
I mean, right? Well, so they did God's work, and when it was all said and done, they were ostracized for it.
Yeah, kind of the big NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Good for you, but not here.
Yeah. Dr. Jeffrey Lowell, always a pleasure. Be safe. We'll talk to you next Wednesday. Professor of Pediatrics and Surgery at Washington University. Thank you, Doctor.
Bye, McGraw. Bye, Kelly.
That was a Skype interview, technology-wise. I don't think it gets any better than that. That was perfect.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear, fantastic. So this whole technology thing, we've been doing Skype now for a couple of years, and I think I don't hear too many other radio stations doing Skype. But it's a great technology. We've talked to him all over the world via Skype,
and he can see us from way over where.
He can see us from all over. But what's even more importantly is you can see it at ktrs.com, and you can see it at stltoday.com. Go to the opinion tab, and of course, all the videos and pictures are up online at Facebook and Twitter and ktrs.com and all that. But that was a Skype interview that sounded almost like he was in studio with us.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it was really interesting. All right, 8:28, Big 5.